Sometimes people do ask themselves that who is this man? How did he manage to do this? Today I'm going to teach you people about this particular man, the history of him, how he managed to bring out product for us to enjoy, to satisfy human utilization. So today you pay attention and listen to how he managed to do all those things that we are enjoying now. Thank you.
Hello, Alexers. Today we're talking about one of the biggest names in the world and America's greatest inventor. He was an exquisite businessman, a CEO, an inventor, and a man that left as legacy the light bulb, sound recording, and motion picture. His name is Thomas Edison. If this name doesn't ring a bell for you, then maybe we should give you some backstory. Some people say he was influential, some say he was a fraud, but all in all, most people credit him for being one of the pioneers of the modern industrialized world. He was born in the Midwestern United States, and through his lifetime, he managed to get his name on some of the most important parks, buildings, streets, and institutions throughout America. Thomas Edison was a man larger than life that is still honored up to this day. He had a long life filled with success, awards, and good friends. So let's have a look at his life, his secrets, his fortune, and the legacy he left us. Number 1. He was homeschooled and self-taught. Nowadays, rich people and successful businessmen are all graduates of Ivy League schools and great MBA programs. More than 100 years ago, school was not the only institution that would grant a successful career. Thomas Edison, for example, was homeschooled and self-taught. Because of that, he was able to pursue his passions, read multiple books, and get small side jobs to raise money for his projects. He got his first job at 12 years old. All his knowledge came from his curiosity and working multiple jobs. Edison was a self-driven man who loved competition and business, showing that a brilliant mind doesn't necessarily need a formal education. Number 2. He was deaf from an early age. It seems that geniuses and great minds always have some sort of medical problem that's actually helping them perform better. Thomas Edison was deaf. He developed ear problems from an early age, yet nobody ever knew why. Multiple stories circulated around, but none were confirmed. However, Edison never saw the issue as a handicap or a setback. For him, it was just a veil of silence, meaning more concentration and less disturbance. Although he couldn't cure his deafness, he helped the world to see better and brought light into our lives. Number 3. He held over 1,093 patents in the US alone. Edison had a specific way of doing his work. He would spend a lot of time doing the experiments and improving it, rather than having a vision and sketching it perfectly from the start. As an inventor, he held over 1,093 patents in the US alone, and many more in other countries. He's credited for many modern things we use today, like X-rays, electric lamps, and telephones. What good is it to have a patent? Every time someone wants to use your design or product, they need to pay you. If the patent is granted to you, then it becomes your property. Even so, patents have a shorter lifespan than a copyright. Number 4. He made up fake news as a joke. Back in the day, Thomas Edison had the chance to talk to Bertie Charles Forbes, the founder of Forbes magazine. It was an American magazine that at the time needed a juicy story from Edison. He didn't want to disappoint, so he made one up. He told him he was currently working on a spirit phone to allow communication with the dead. The story was quickly picked up by other publications, even though Edison dismissed it later on. This could be considered early fake news, but Edison was also known for twisting stories and telling multiple versions. Number 5. His net worth was around $170 million. With so many patents and a profitable company under his name, Thomas Edison was a well-known businessman that managed to mix work with success. Unlike other inventors, he knew how to invest and make money, and he made millions of it. At the time of his death, he had gathered $12 million, which translates into $170 million after inflation adjustments. His leadership style was admired by many people because at that time, many people were trying to invent the next big thing and revolutionize the world. As you've seen many times on our channels, running a mega business while also juggling projects and a personal life is not an easy job. Number 6. He tortured animals just to prove a point. Edison wasn't the only one playing with electricity and breakthrough inventions. He was working with direct current, while George Westinghouse worked with alternating current. Because Edison had more support and the invention of the light bulb in his hand, he used them to bring down high-voltage alternating current. To show people just how dangerous and useless alternating current is, he used to electrocute stray dogs and cattle to prove his point and destroy his competition. Although he tried his best, nowadays we use alternating current, showing that Edison in fact was wrong. He even supported the electric chair execution because it was done with high-voltage alternating current. Number 7. He pirated hundreds of copies of A Trip to the Moon. Copyright and piracy have been a massive problem for artists and filmmakers. A lot of money and effort goes into a production and marketing, so it's only natural to support and honor that. The first movies were made a little over 100 years ago, and Edison was one of the pioneers in this industry. He made various films, but he also broke copyright. He made hundreds of copies of Georges Méliès's movie A Trip to the Moon, to the point of bankrupting him. The only benefit of this action was the fact that the movie was very well received and loved by Americans, although Méliès made no money out of it. This was all happening back in 1902. Number 8. His relationship with Nikola Tesla is overly exaggerated. Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison are both great inventors, partners, and rivals. They were working in the same field and were fighting for the same piece of the pie. Although they weren't best friends or managing partners, history twisted their rivalry into drama and exaggerations. Tesla worked for Edison's company for a while, but then they parted ways because they wanted to work on different ideas. They had some differences and a rivalry, but nothing like bullying, fights, and bad blood. Their relationship has actually been misunderstood for decades. Number 9. He had a very strange hiring strategy. Getting a job has always been difficult. Back in Edison's time, smart and qualified people were in need just like they are today, but they also needed to test them before hiring. Because Edison was such a good businessman, he was in charge of this process too. The strangest thing he did was to ask candidates to eat a bowl of soup as a part of the test. All he wanted to know by this was if they added salt and pepper before tasting it. Why is that relevant? Because he wanted people who didn't make assumptions. Smart, right? Number 10. He owned multiple big estates. Thomas Edison knew how to make money and also where to invest them. He bought a few houses for his comfort, and they were as you would expect, big, comfortable, and fitted for a millionaire. Most of his past homes are now museums or tribute estates. He had a holiday house in Fort Myers, Florida, and one in New York City. They're all still standing, showing the lavish lifestyle Americans had 100 years ago. Edison raised his 6 children there and left them many other properties that honored his name. The Menlo Park house his son built sold for $6 million. And Luxers want to know how much money other CEOs make? Head over to our video where we rank the highest paid CEOs in the world. Just click in the top right corner to check it out. Number 11. He was backed by JP Morgan and the Vanderbilt family. Although Edison managed to make money from his patents and his company, he still needed funding for some of his projects. He was lucky enough to live in a time when JP Morgan and the Vanderbilt family were open toward supporting inventions and investing. He was also friends with Henry Ford and Harvey Firestone. They helped each other and spent holidays together. Edison had good communication skills that helped him promote his ideas and get funding if needed, even though he had some failed projects too. Number 12. The company he founded is now worth $244 billion. The legacy Edison left for the world is obvious, but for his fellow Americans, he left them an even bigger heritage: General Electric, one of the biggest companies in the world that's now worth over $244 billion. General Electric was one of the first companies that formed Dow Jones Index and is still among the companies that can show just how well the American economy performs. Although it was partially founded by Edison, it now has 2 employees awarded with Nobel Prizes and revenues of over $122 billion. Number 13. He proposed to his wife using Morse Code. Proposals are always romantic. Whether you like them or not, they're one of the cheesiest and most tear-dropping moments for a couple. There are millions of ideas on how to propose, and each couple has a certain way of showing affection. Edison wasn't the most romantic person, but he did like to communicate in a more creative way. Since he was responsible for one of the first wireless transmissions, he used Morse code even when talking to his wife. In fact, he actually proposed with Morse code. This might have also been partially because he was almost entirely deaf. Number 14. His last breath was recorded for Henry Ford. Edison's legacy will always live on in the world because he's done so much toward modernization and comfort. Even his friends acknowledged his importance. It's said that Thomas Edison's last breath was recorded and stored in an airtight tube. This was done at Henry Ford's request by Edison's son. It now lies in the Thomas Edison Museum. The tube itself went through some crazy hands and owners, and some even claim that it's all bonkers. There are apparently 42 tubes with Edison's last breath, so it must have been quite a long one. Number 15. Footballer Pele is named after Thomas Edison. We all like to believe that our name carries great tradition and significance. Some of us get warrior names, some those of a god, and so on. The famous Brazilian football player Pele got his name after Thomas Edison. Pele was born Edson Arantes do Nascimento, but on many documents he's referred to as Edison. His father wanted to name him Edson, similar to Edison, as a tribute to the man who invented the light bulb. Unfortunately, though, everyone calls him Pele, so the reference got lost along the way. The lives of the rich and famous are always filled with crazy extravaganza and some drama. The great inventors of the last century really have outdone themselves, and it's amazing to see that in 100 years, so many things have changed, yet it seems like a lot of them are still the same. We now have electricity, smartphones, and spaceships, yet we still hire people the same way and have the same shopping habits. What do you guys think Edison was best at? Getting help from smart people around him or innovating? Let us know in the comments section. And of course, for sticking with us until the end, we have another fact in honor of Edison and his great achievements. This one's for Adele, phoning from the other side. Number 16. He said the first hello over the phone. Have you ever wondered why we say hello when we answer the phone? Who said it first and why we still use it today? Well, Thomas Edison didn't quite invent the phone, but he helped with its development. Edison was the man that urged people using his phone to say hello when answering. Alexander Graham Bell wanted ahoy to be used instead, but it didn't stick. Which makes us curious. What do you say when answering the phone?
In age, Thomas Edison is one of the people who also discover an emission called thermionic emission or primary emission. The study of thermionic emission cannot be done without the mention of Thomas Edison, an American who, in attempt to improve the operation of the incandescent lamp, placed a small metal plate inside a light bulb and discovered that a small current flowed through from the hot filament to the plate. What an amazing story! This phenomenon is known today as Edison's effect. Oh wow! Yeah, even though Thomas Edison, could not assign any reason to his discovery, later experiments, especially by John Fleming, revealed that what Thomas Edison had discovered was in fact thermionic emission. Thermionic emission can thus be described as the release of valence electrons from their atoms when certain materials are heated to high temperature. When certain materials are heated to required temperatures, valence electrons become excited and gain energy to break their bonds into the surroundings. Yes, indeed, this man has done a great job. Some of these electrons are attracted back to the conductor as a result of the holes or positive charges created due to their exist, but some remain and form a space cloud around it. These free electrons liberated as a result of heat are called thermions, from thermal and ion. Therefore, a thermion can be described as a charged particles created as a result of heat and hence thermionic emission. Wow!